Good morning. Welcome to Caffeinate Your Career. Today's topic, why a new job won't solve your problem. I'm your host, the career coach with the most, Jason Hopper. With me today, Jim Warner, and look at that, Scott Butnick just popped in here.
By magic.
It's like,
See you, buddy. What's going on?
Scott is here. Guys, welcome to Caffeinate Your Career. I'm looking and we are, in fact, live. And I can hear us too, so great. Everything is working the way it's supposed to.
Excellent.
Okay, so this topic actually, we've done it before, although I have changed up all the format. And one of the things I did was run that question through AI, right? But I hear sometimes from people, clients specifically, like, if I could just get a new job, like everything is going to be correct and fix itself in my life if I could just get that job, right? And that's not really necessarily so. And the reason why a new job won't fix your problems, well, we have several different reasons, but the first would be underlying personal issues. Could be maybe you're in your job and you don't understand or realize that you're burnt out. And when that happens, getting another job that's going to be in the same industry probably is going to carry over and not do yourself any good. Jim.
I completely agree. There is an adage that says, the grass is not always greener.
Yes, that's actually, we're going to talk about that. That is actually the fallacy that we'll discuss here in just a minute. Scott, your thoughts?
Sometimes a new job can solve your problem. Where it's not going to solve your problem is if you're the problem.
Sure, right. Yeah.
I mean, it's a rather flippant way. The other way, not to spin it, but the other way to articulate it is sometimes you have to look in the mirror. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you've been in a job, the amount of time is probably not terribly relevant in each job. But if you've been in a job and you find yourself having the same challenge time and again, I think it's time to look in the mirror.
Without it.
Okay. And let's say, look. It's easy for the three of us, for those of you watching and hopefully listening. By the way, what Jason said about AI is probably better than anything Jim and I are going to come up with today. So, but
we'll talk about that too in a minute as well. But go ahead, Scott.
At some point, you, like I said, if you see the same challenges coming to the surface, then you have to wonder. You have to ask, not wonder. You have to ask yourself, what's the common denominator? Is it me? Is it the way I'm looking at my work? Is it, and there could be legitimate reasons, not excuses. We're always careful. And Jim, I said this last week, we know Jim ran a business. I've managed people. Some things are excuses, some things are reasons. Okay, and there's a big difference. But if you see if you see the same things happening over and over or feel like they are, then you have to be able to look in the mirror.
If you're not managing the stress, like in the which you should be, yes, getting into a new job is going to, I think, carry over.
But here, I have something to say, and that is, as recruiters, we look at candidates with stability. And so, if there's a move, every 2 years from one business to another, you're not getting past the eyes of even the assistant recruiter.
Today, good job history is 2 to 3 years. The millennials changed that. The millennial mindset is after a couple of years, they want a different experience and off they go.
I don't know. When we're talking about higher level roles, that's not the case.
Your upper management?
Yeah.
Well, sure, because you can't put new processes into place and then leave without seeing them through.
Without a doubt.
right?
So, yes.
So I'm going to agree with you on that. But for your admins, accountants, CSRs,
Right.
2 to 3 years.
Yeah, I would say so.
I'll tell you this. This is a little bit absolute, but stability works better than not having stability. Okay, it's just not having stability in your background, in your resume, demonstrated on your resume. Today, I think this is where the change is. It's not a strikeout unless we're talking really short, 6 months to a year, 6 months to a year.
Well, that's just, I mean, that's a different problem.
That's a red flag.
That's a huge red flag.
But having stability can be the difference between getting the offer and not. Yeah. And also, by the way, and how much your offer is going to be. Okay. But I think I'm inclined to agree with you a little. I understand what Jim's saying, but I think the chemistry, the algorithm for job stability on a resume has changed a little bit from maybe the way it was even probably 10, 15 years ago, and radically from the way it was when we entered the workforce.
Well, I'm gonna challenge you on that one, Scott, because I think job search changed drastically up to 5 years ago. And the reason is because of the pandemic, and nobody predicted that. I mean, we went from, if you remember, we went in 2020, the world shut down in March, and everybody found themselves at home going, I don't even know what, including hiring. And then we kind of figured it out, and we started doing more video and video hiring, and that became more common, but even still drug out because it's harder to read people on video than it is in person. And so even still, as I was working with clients and helping them go through this, where we would typically see for a role that would be maybe 2 interviews was now going 3 to 4 because again, it's just harder to pick up on those things and click.
Yeah.
Right?
Without a doubt. But many of the companies are doing the first 2-3 interviews through video. And then when we're finally getting to the touch point, okay, they're going to be physically face to face.
But I'll say this, okay, and I think this is something we've discussed before.
Yeah.
The number of and this is probably a different conversation, so don't let me get off on that tangent.
We're going to go back to the topic, but go ahead, Scott.
But when you start talking about the number of interviews, I really think, and I've seen this in a lot of the online recruiting websites and journals, that there has to be some relationship between the number of interviews that the company involves and the where the job falls in the hierarchy. Okay,
yeah.
A C-suite, even a sub-C-suite job, mid-level manager. Yeah, people need to know they're going to be comfortable, and this person's going to be on the team, that they're coachable. So all those things that we talk about. But when you're talking about somebody working for what is today a $13 an hour job at a supermarket, 4 or 5 interviews, I can't buy that. I have a problem with that. Okay?
I for those types of jobs, I don't know that you need a second interview.
Well, that may well.
But like to your point, I had a client who was director level, and he got in there with the recruiter at Deloitte, and they told him this is going to be an 8 to 10 long interview process. They said you better get ready because it's going to be a long process. And he's been there for over a year now. I mean, so it worked out fine. But he knew going in, he's going to have at least 8 interviews.
And if they tell you, if they give you heads up about it, you know what you're walking into.
Yeah.
It's when you don't know what you're walking into that you can have an issue. So.
Yeah, and then they come up with a personality test.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, those personality tests. The hiring manager loved him. All the people before him loved him. Gets the personality test, failed, done.
Which frankly, I think is unfortunate.
It is.
It's unfortunate.
Yes.
And I think, frankly, I'll tell you something else. I think personality tests are crutches for hiring managers to back up a decision that they were having trouble making.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I think. But that's just an opinion.
I won't disagree. I think that's true. I remember when I was a kid. I was younger. I was in my 20s, and I worked for a video store, and I was up for promotion to be the assistant manager. This was a local chain. It wasn't Blockbuster or anything. We had like 3 stores, one in Irving, one in like North Dallas, and like one in Garland. And so it was family owned. And what they did was they sent me to a psychologist to take a personality test for this role.
Yeah.
And so I took the personality test, and then I sit down with this guy for like maybe 10 minutes. And he's asking questions. These are the questions he's asking. He's like, so how's your relationship with your father?
Uh-huh.
Like weird kind of questions that have nothing to do with the job. And so I'm leaving like, was that therapy? Like, what is happening? Like, I don't. So then a week goes by, and I talk to my manager, and I'm like, hey, have you heard anything? Like, am I getting this role? Am I getting promoted? And he said, yeah, we talked to the psychiatrist, and he said, based on your personality test, we should not hire you because you're psychotic. That was my response too, Scott. I'm like, what? Because I'm pretty sure I'm not psychotic.
Yeah.
But when you go in to take these personality tests, it's kind of like when you take any type of test, oftentimes you get nervous, and it's the same questions they're asking over and over again. The wording is somewhat different, and you're trying to remember, well, what did I answer the last time? And so, like, when I talk to clients and tell them, like, listen, just go through it. Take your time to go through it, but go through it and answer truthfully, not what you think that they want to hear. I did get promoted, by the way. They did promote me.
I got an anecdotal story. Okay, so we're talking about staying in your job and thinking the next one's going to be even better, right? So I was interviewing with a new recruiting office, okay, who was got me through the 5 people, finally at the final, and the guy wants to have lunch, right? So we sit down with one another at lunch. And he says, "You've been here before?" I said, "No." He says, "Okay, you'll order this, and you'll drink this." And I said, "Oh, of course I will."
Right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, wait a minute, because Jason's story reminds me of the time I went to a psychiatrist, and he said, "You're crazy." I said, "I think I'd like a second opinion." He said, "You're ugly, too."
But needless to say, that would have been a job from hell. Okay, to work for a guy who says, "Okay, you got to," and the bread came. He says, "You put that on the left side of the plate." I mean, it was just that would be a micromanagement from hell.
But that's a nightmare. Yeah.
Oh God! I didn't take the job.
It's from having talked to
You're ugly too.
That's documented, but you said it too.
That's a good joke. Yeah.
One of the things that I've heard here in talking to candidates here, and I've heard over the years, when I'm playing the consultant as a recruiter, is, but Scott, in Jason's story, it's really hard to walk away once you get in and you think, I have a shot at this job, especially if you're not working, because I've been there.
Right.
It's hard to interview us, interrupt us, to withdraw. Okay. Because okay, but it's a job, okay. But what I would say in Jason's situation, I don't want to make it direct, but in Jason's situation, when you feel that way, get out.
Yeah.
Run like hell in the other direction. Okay?
I think that's correct, because oftentimes you're out of work, and the longer you're out of work, the more stress and the fear kicks in. Am I going to be able to pay my rent? Can I afford food? If you've got a family, you've got other people you have to look out for. And now you're in the spot and you're like, well, okay, they gave me the offer. And you feel like, as you're going through the process, desperate, and that you have to take the job.
Which, to put a ribbon on this, if I may, takes us back to our core topic. Why do I think a new job will cure the problem? Okay. And if you took an offer, I'm careful to use the word duress, but if you took an offer, if you took a job offer because you thought you had to to feed your family, the probability of winding up in that very situation just became much greater. You know?
Well, that's another reason why it's not going to solve the problem, because even if you have a higher salary, if you don't understand your spending habits and you're just like going through that anyway, it's still going to be a problem.
It's not going to go away.
More money, more problems, right? And that's one of the reasons why, in addition to what I do here as a career coach, we have financial coaches here that can help you out with not only recognizing those patterns, but coming up with a spending plan and working with you to get your debt paid down and your credit scores up, right?
Yep.
Because going into, I think if the problem is money and you get more money or you get a job that pays more money, if the environment itself is still not one that may be toxic, you still have the same problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're just kicking the can down.
You're just kicking the can down the road.
Yeah.
Well, it's the other part. It's like life circumstances that pop up as well, right? Like either family issues or health concerns. Just your overall well-being. Just because the job changed doesn't mean that you're going to change too. But you hear that, like new job, new you?
Yeah.
Not necessarily so.
I don't think so.
This is another one that is not going to solve your problems. Is behavioral issues or patterns, recurring patterns. You said this.
That's what I was referring to.
It's that you
gotta
know,
look in the mirror.
The same thing over and over and over again. It's like, and I've seen this too with sometimes with clients. It's like, that manager was just so overbearing. And then, okay, so you left within 6 months, and then what happened then? Oh my God, the team, they were just out to get me.
Yeah.
They were all trying to get me fired. They were telling lies about me. It's like, bullshit, that did not happen. That's not, like nobody's out to get you.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's not really a thing.
Yeah.
You know? But, and it's, really, it's you.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on how much of a pattern, like you said, because the third one is things changed after I got there. That's the one I've heard a lot.
Yes.
Now, if somebody has 4 years, 6 years, but on the 6-year job, they tell me things change. Yeah, well, things might change, and they might change not in your favor. If that gets virulent enough, then yeah, you might want to have to start looking for a job. But if it's this pattern of, well, it was somebody else's fault, it was somebody else's fault, it was somebody else's fault, and it may not, we know from having done enough interviews, all three of us know, that it may be a little bit more subtle, but you can start to take someone's temperature. And it's like, boy, my hiring manager is going to be upset when they interview this person. Yeah. And that person's not getting, and I think we've all talked about this, recruiters generally don't control who gets hired, but we do control who gets interviewed.
That's right.
And if you can't get interviewed, you can't get hired.
That's right.
Okay.
And yeah, you don't want to put a candidate up that has those red flags.
Obvious weaknesses.
You know,
Yeah.
I think too that comes into play, and I see this one a lot as well. It's like they're not hiring me because of my age.
Mm-hmm.
I'm over 50, and that's why they're not hiring me.
Mm-hmm.
And I will see that time and again with clients, or just like I did a presentation a few weeks back, and that was what her concern was.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no,
Mm-hmm.
you just don't interview well. Like we're not going to use age as a crutch,
Exactly. Yeah.
which is what comes into play. It's just like the statistic probability, if you interviewed at 3, 4, 5, 6 places, that they're all ageist. I don't do numbers very well, but I don't think that is really statistically possible.
When people tell me something, they feel, I think this is ageism, feel there's a slant, a bias because of their age. If I think I have the right relationship with the candidate, what I tell them is go in and show more energy next time, or show more passion.
Well,
Because that's what my managers are looking for. They're looking for people that are excited to be there.
that's right. So you have gray hair,
Yeah.
and the rest of them are in their 30s. They've got, the tight chest, the big muscles. You're sitting there with them, and you're all interviewing at one time. So as Scott said, you're not going to beat these guys, on appearance and age, but you've got more to offer.
That's right.
And you're presenting it.
Really believe that. You're absolutely right.
Well, I say all the time, it's like employers hire people to solve their problems. I don't care how old you are. If you cannot convey in the interview how you solve problems, you are not moving forward in the process. You're just not.
And guess what? I don't care how young you are if you can't solve my problem.
But it starts with the prep.
That's right.
And the prep is critical for that candidate to go in and beat the masses for that opportunity. And you have a program that does that, right?
Do we?
Yeah.
You're part of it, so I would think that you would know about the. You're part. So it's a good time to do the commercial for the day, guys. We do have a virtual practice interview program. We do them every Tuesday at 1:00 Central. Jim is on the team. Scott is on the team. What will happen is you will get into a breakout room with your interviewer. They will interview you for 30 minutes. There will be 15 minutes of feedback. And at the end of the week, everybody will send me a feedback form. So you will have something tangible in your hand that you can look at, the things that you might want to work on interviewing. I have 6 different people on the team. Everybody has extensive experience in interviewing and hiring. And so that's 6 different people that you can practice with. If it's something that you are interested in, email me at jhopper. That's HOPPER. That's the letter J, not JAY. jhopper at jfsdallas.org, and put practice interview in the subject line. And then we'll get you. You can interview with Jim. You can interview with Scott.
Some other really good people.
Or somebody else on the team. We are full up for today and for next week. Actually, I've got 4 spots left, and that's it. So, because everybody on the team will be here. We'll have all 6 interviewers next week.
There you go.
I'll say this about this program, about what Jason just described. I'm not going to tell anybody watching today or listening that it guarantees you success in interviews, because none of us know that. I'm going to tell you that I wish when I went on my first interview X amount of years ago that there was a program like this I could have participated in, because I know it would have helped me. Whether it helps you or not, we'll let you be the judge. But I know it would have helped me, and it wasn't out there.
So I track all of that. I have to turn in a report to our volunteer manager so that we can get credit for hours, because you guys are volunteering your time to do it. So I know who has interviewed, and some of them are clients, and they have gone through the program, and they have gone on to get jobs. So I'm going to say that it is not only helpful, but almost crucial that whether you do it with our program or somewhere else, and this is the main misstep I see with most job hunters, is they don't put in enough practice in the interview.
Or preparation. What Jim said, that you can never discount preparation for an interview, for a work assignment. Get out ahead of the curve on the information. Super hot. God, that'd be very rhetorical.
Once again, if you have 1 that had been prepped and 3 that are coming in off the street and have no idea what to present during the interview, this guy's got a good chance.
Because it shows.
For sure.
It shows.
For sure.
You can see it.
We had a comment in the chat. Joe Takamoto, who is our senior director here at Career and Financial Services. Thanks for watching. Joe said, sometimes it's hard to realize that it may be, quote, unquote, you and not them as the common denominator. 100%.
The fact is, you can never know for sure. And I go back to the hiring manager that I worked with for quite a while at Bank of America a number of years ago. Used to say to me, Scott, I have a spreadsheet. I score the candidates. There's A category. We would do interviews together, which was a lot of fun. And I would do 4. He would do 4. He said, I score them. The areas are weighted. I score them. I divide it. I have a formula, and then I go with my gut. That's a true story.
No, it's it.
And he was a darn good executive and a very admired leader, may I say.
I was like, as a recruiter, how long in the conversation did it take you to figure out this person's moving to the next level?
For me, certainly within the first 90 seconds.
Jim.
I would say just about the same.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this.
No more than 2 minutes.
I'll go further down the interview, not up the interview chain, but down it. When I call a candidate when I used to call a candidate for the first time, good morning, Jason. My name is Scott Butnick. I'm with such and such, and either so-and-so referred you to us or we have your resume, and I wanted to talk to you about an opportunity. How are you this morning? Good. How are you? Right away, we're making progress. Something as simple, you don't know me, I don't know you, but you're willing to have an exchange, and some people, because believe me, I imagine you did too, probably fewer than me, because you talk to so many polished salespeople.
Yeah.
But so I can't tell you how many people. Good morning, Jason. My name is Scott Butnick. How are you? Good. And the conversation falls flat.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm calling you for a public contact role,
Yes.
and that's all you can muster.
But
Yeah.
no matter how well prepped that candidate, you're not prepping the client who's hiring that person.
No.
Okay.
No.
So,
Right.
and what you have no control over is once you've done the prep and they're in the room together, again, 90 seconds.
Yeah.
That's all you got.
Yeah.
Chemistry.
Yeah.
It
Well,
starts right away.
I once called a client, and I said, I introduced myself, and I said, "How are you doing today?" And she said, "Oh, I'm great. How are you?" And I said, "I am awesome."
Mhm.
And she paused, and she goes, "Are you bragging?" I was like, "Oh, I'm pretty damn good at this job, but now I'm just in a good mood." Right? In the chat, we had Dr. Patricia Black say, "Brilliant." And Rhonda Robinson said, preparation is so important and often overlooked. Rhonda Robinson is our new career and financial coach here at JFS. And she's working from home today, but she is in a good spot because she's watching Caffeinate Your Career. Okay, this one I want to talk about because if you don't have the passion for the work, doesn't matter where you go or where you get into in a different job, it's still not going to fix the problem to make you happy. Right? You have to. I just had this conversation today with Jill this morning, which is like, how I framed it up was, life is too short to be in a job you hate.
Yeah, agree.
And getting a new job, wherever it goes, if you don't have the passion to do it, it's just not going to work.
And you're never going to be 100%. You're not going to love every job. You may not love any job you had, but if you continue, I don't think this can be overstated. If you're continually finding yourself in a job you hate or a job you just don't like, you got to ask yourself, what am I missing?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for accountability here. Okay, and so I think most of us come across a manager or an environment that just isn't working for us, okay? And what we have to be able to do is think, okay, I can't guarantee myself. The only things that are guaranteed, the IRS is right, and we're going to die.
Death and taxes.
Death and taxes. So we can't, but we can try to put filters in or look for indicators that tell us that when we're interviewing, that this is the right situation, or at least maybe it isn't the right situation, but it's the wrong situation.
Yeah, and it's important to realize that. I think too, like if you're going to move into a different position, you need to make sure that you have the right skills for the position.
Yeah.
Because if you get in there and if maybe you talk a good game, but you don't have the skill to do it, it's still not going to work, and you're not going to be happy.
I think it's something we say every week. I think it needs to be said every week. Exactly what you just said, Jason.
No.
If you don't have the right skills, you're barking up the wrong pole.
Do you know what one skill I read just recently, an article that said that 34% of hiring managers today are expecting you to have this skill. Do you know what it is? No. Familiarity with artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
Makes sense.
They will be asking, and you better have an answer for that question. It's not going away, and they will be asking you, how do you feel about AI? 34% of hiring. That's not, I know that doesn't seem like, but like when you consider how many people are in the market right now, Southwest just laid off
1,750 people.
That's right. Right. Yeah. That are out in the market. Competition is fierce. And if you get asked a question about AI and you don't know how to answer it, you're in big trouble. You have to upskill constantly.
And if you think the answer is AI sucks, I'll never touch it, then you just talk yourself out of the job.
For sure.
You might as well know that too. You don't need to be an expert on it, but put some positive spin on it.
You need to know something about it. I talked about this. This is how I came up with these talking points. I ran it through ChatGPT. I ran the question, why a new job won't solve your problems. This is what we got. I want to talk real quick because we're getting close to time, but I do want to talk. We got another comment. People will realize that you would need support around you when you accept a job, even if it's not the fit that you wanted. Absolutely, but Patricia. But also too, I think that also the next part of that is you're going to need to know like getting into the right environment, right? Because we don't want to get toxic. But we talked a minute ago, and I want to really get into the grass is greener fallacy. Because oftentimes that's what happens is we start to look at what's going on over there, and if we can just get over there and break in with that company, we're going to be happy.
Right.
And that's not necessarily so.
But don't order a salad because remember that was my story.
Right.
Don't order a salad.
Jim, I want the bread over there. This happened to like my wife's coworker. She went to a different company and thought that it was going to be just the best ever, and she's not happy, right? Grass wasn't green. It turns out we ended up in a micromanaging situation, and nobody likes that. There's no flexibility. Like you better be at your desk and sitting and working at this point in time, and if you're not, there's like you get detention or I don't know what happens, but not happy. You know, sometimes, and I think I want to look at some solutions, identifying the root cause. If it's you, if it's the role, do we need to do something else? But I think too, like, you want to talk to somebody, a recruiter, a career coach, somebody that can help you kind of dig out what the root cause might be, why you're not happy in your job. And if there's a possibility to reframe or maybe relearn something in the job that makes it fun and enjoyable where you are instead of just jumping ship and going somewhere else.
I don't think that's the job of the recruiter.
It's not.
No, right. The hiring manager.
Yeah.
But I think if you can look at something in a different way, that from where you are now versus I've got to get out of here, is it possible to be creative and come up with something else in the job that would make it fun?
Or maybe it's time to see a psychologist, and I'm serious.
Could be.
Or some kind of counseling.
Yeah.
I'm a huge believer in therapy. And I think it's something that we need to talk more about and make it more normalized than, you're saying
you go to the doctor for your heart, your lung, your skin, your head.
What about your brain?
And what about your brain?
Yeah.
I've been going to the same psychologist, I must tell you, for about the last 3 years. Okay. So about a year and a half ago, it changed. Now I help him with his problems.
Yeah.
When I was, and I don't mind saying because she tells everybody anyway, but when my wife had cancer and was at MD Anderson and lived at MD Anderson. She didn't live at the hospital. She lived in Houston for like 8 weeks. And I'm up here trying to keep everything together. And for myself, my son, I still have to work and function. But really, I was falling apart inside.
Yes.
And it was recommended that I talk to one of our therapists here. And it was the best thing ever.
There you go.
Right? It was so helpful. And even in really what happened, she didn't do a whole lot. Right? She would offer a suggestion or two. It's just I needed to get all the stuff that was in me out.
And the psychologist can help determine, is this a passion? Or is there something wrong? And how do we fix it?
And as this relates to the workplace, if you need professional help, then go seek it out. But sometimes a mentor can provide that. When this relates to the workplace, when you're having a challenge, again, look, I'm going to use myself because in this instance, in this example, because I remember it happened more than once. Ran into a challenge with something, and I do say, is it something I'm doing? Is it something I said, I did, a message I'm sending? And that's what a mentor can help you with, especially somebody that's experienced in the culture and understands and has had success of their own. That helps, right?
Yes.
Because you want to get coached by somebody that's been to the mountaintop. You don't want to get coached by somebody that is struggling, right?
Right.
And that was the question. Is it something? What am I sending a message that's being counterproductive? And there were times people said, "Hey Scott, you might want to think about it this way." And there have been times they've said, "Hey Scott, you're fine. It's that person," because there was usually a common relationship.
I think that it's always good to get a second opinion.
Absolutely.
Like there have been many times I'm like, "Hey, Jill, can you come read this email before I hit send? I want to make sure that the message is clear because I'm not certain I'm, have the right message." And you're like, "Sure."
But since this is a career development webinar that we're doing,
yes.
Okay, I would suggest that. I've lost my train of thought right now. It was right there. I'm sorry. Continue.
So I think that as we look at what the problems can be on why you think a new job will make you happy or put you where you want to go, it's important, I think, to do a little bit of that self-reflection and get into a better mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I tell clients all the time that I'm like, I can teach you everything that you need to be successful in your job search, but if you don't have the right mindset, none of it's going to work. Right?
Absolutely.
Just real quick in the comments, we had Jeffrey Moore say, "Wow." That's a good, we like wow. And Rhonda said that she didn't take AI seriously until she joined JFS, and it's great. It absolutely is. And again, you need to be prepared to answer that question. So, fun question for the day. Jonathan, if y'all didn't hear it, Jonathan's like, oh, sigh over there.
All over the internet is the word exhale in parentheses.
I'll make it an easy one, okay? What TV show are you currently obsessed with? Scott.
Night Agent on Netflix.
Okay.
Definitely.
Season 2 is out.
No, we're at the end of season 1 and we haven't watched it yet.
Oh, okay.
It's like pending, and it's like, don't get me started on Night Agent, but I have not been more anxious about watching the last episode of one of these serial TV shows in a long time. Yeah.
It's on my list. Jim?
I would say Severance on Apple. That is just a compelling show.
Yeah. I just finished watching the last episode of Cobra Kai.
Mm-hmm.
Where's that?
It's on Netflix.
Okay.
It's if you don't know, Scott, it's a sequel to the Karate Kid franchise.
Oh, okay.
And
gotcha.
it's here's why I liked it. I've been thinking about it since I just watched the very last episode. Everybody, and this is a good indicator of you're watching a good TV show, is all the characters changed. If there's change within the show and the characters, you know it's a good TV show. Yeah. And every character changed by the end of the show, and I thought it was just amazing. So, all right. So, guys, if you're watching, what TV show are you obsessed with? Because I need other things on my list. This has been Caffeinate, your career for this week. Next week, Scott will be back. Jim will be back. We will be talking about the 5 P's of job search. We'll start with what they are, and then we'll talk about them. So come back next week. We'll have more fun and have the best week this week. This has been Caffeinate, your career. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.